So welcome everybody to our virtual programming basics and beyond session, the last session in our spring officer training. My name is Lauren Wilson. I am the Associate Director of Student Development.
Hello, everyone. My name is Shadia Lagur. I am Assistant Director in the Office of Student Development. So today we're going to talk to you about virtual programming basics and beyond. And so first we're going to start off with the basics of programming, irrespective of if that program is happening virtually or in person, so that everyone has an understanding of how to host and plan a successful program. So some of the key things that you'd want to think about when you are planning a program is Bernie. No, I'm just kidding. Some of the important things that you'd like to think about would be your goal, the audience, logistics, marketing, execution the day of the program, and the assessment following the program. And so what that looks like is goals. So you want to think about, what is the point of the program? Why are you bringing this to your community? Why are you bringing this to the university? Why are you bringing this to your Boy Scouts group? Whatever reason, you think about why you're bringing it there and what you're hoping to accomplish and achieve with that. The next thing that you'd want to consider is the audience. So is this for small children? Is this for juniors? Is it for seniors? Are you targeting people who love Harry Potter? Are you hoping to attract people who are not members of your club and organization yet in a recruitment effort? Are you hosting your program in a celebratory manner to recognize those who are already a part or connected with your organization? Are you acknowledging a particular affinity group or a history month? So think about who you're trying to target, and that will ultimately lead you to logistics. When you start thinking about if you're hosting, like when we have programs on campus where faculty and staff bring their children to campus, if you're hosting a program like that, your audience are, K through 12, possibly smaller children. It will impact your logistics in a far different way than if you were potentially hosting a program for seniors or a program for high school students. So think about your audience. So when we talk about logistics for a program, we're thinking about the nuts and bolts, the important things, the structure, the frame. So we're thinking about when the program is going to be, date, time, and location. Will you be providing food? Will there be incentives? What do you need to make payments? Is there a check? Is your event on Osprey Hub? Always a big one, and the most important one to our office. Thinking about if you have contracts that are associated with outside vendors, have you done that? Have you sat down and met with your student development advisor? And so if for some reason you don't know, every club and organization recognized by our office is assigned a student development advisor as well. And so meeting with them and helping to think through what your logistics for it would be. Marketing. Your programs are only as good as those who know about it. So if you put on an amazing program and no one has ever heard of it, no one knew it was even going to happen, then you're missing a major part of programming. So think about how you want to market your program. Most times when people think marketing, they think flyer, and that is one way to promote and market your event. One of my favorite marketing initiatives from a student was she placed small spoons, disposable spoons on everyone in the residential community, everyone on her floor's door. And it was for an ice cream social that she was having, but it definitely stood out and it created a break in the day so that people could see. And then people were like, what's this spoon about? And then on the spoon had a little piece of paper that said the date, time, and location of the program. So think about the different ways to do that. On our campus, we work very closely with event services to be able to put things on the website, on the LED screens, and around campus. And then also, if you print a tangible flyer, they will hang them around the campus center and around the academic spine as well. For execution, so the day of your event, I traditionally tell my students, you want to show up at least an hour ahead of time to make sure that the speakers work, to make sure that the room is set up the way that you would like for it to be, that your guest speaker is there, your presenter is there, whatever the things that you expect to be in that space. If you were meeting Chartwells for catering, that is already present. I particularly like to have an agenda of the day, what I need to do, what I should be looking for in that space, just because it helps guide me along the way, the things that need to be done that day. And so I encourage you to think about the things that you need on the day of execution, and then you get it done. You make it happen. You make sure that the program is living up to the goals, the audience, the logistic, and the marketing that you put forth already. And then when it is all said and done, assessment. So, how did you do in executing the program? And that's something that doesn't necessarily have to happen after the program. While people are there, you can ask questions while they're in that space to get an idea. How's the temperature in the room? How's the food? Are you enjoying yourself? Can you see very well? Is there anything that we can do that would make this program better? Are questions that can be asked after as well. So, what made you come to the program? Does this date and time work well for you? What would make you come out to another program? Have you ever heard of our organization before? So those are questions that you can ask of folks who attended the event. Some questions while they're there to help you get an understanding, and maybe it's something you can correct on the spot, or something that you find out after the event and you use that knowledge for your continued programming. So those are the programming basics.
I was going to say, just a quick note on assessment. Osprey Hub actually has a quick feedback tool built in when you're creating your events now. And so as long as you are tracking attendance at your program, even if it's not an Osprey Advantage program, even if it's just a regular social program, you can add those questions in. And as long as you're sending out the URL to track attendance, it will automatically send your quick survey out to anyone who attended your event.
That's awesome. Okay, so now that we've talked about the basics, the 101s, we're going to do some honest introductions.
All right, so Shadi and I were, really excited to get together and put together a presentation on virtual programming. And when we got together for the first time, we're like, you know what? I don't know the tricks. We have exhausted most of our tools. And we're not even sure what to present on today. So that's going to be our honest little piece of information going forward. Our disclaimer is that we are struggling too. We haven't found the magic solution to bring people to virtual programs, to keep them engaged. But we want this to be an open and honest discussion moving forward, so that we can all kind of bounce ideas off of one another. Encourage you to take risks, because obviously we're all new to this. There is no best practices in this area yet, because we're all still so new to figuring out this new way of programming and event planning and keeping students engaged in the virtual world. So we wanted to dish out a little bit of honesty and say that we're struggling too to figure this out. But the saying that keeps being repeated quite a bit is that we're all in this together. And that really is true. If you're struggling to come up with ideas for virtual programs, reach out to your advisor, reach out to members of other clubs, because there are definitely some great ideas that are floating around out there.
Absolutely.
All right, so we want to kind of, talk beyond the traditional way of programming, because that's where we're at these days. And we hope that soon we'll be able to get back to doing some more in-person events and having that little sense of normalcy. But for now, most of our programs are existing in the virtual world. So wanted to, again, have that open discussion and talk about rethinking the expectations and what it means to be successful. The new normal, what exactly does that mean? So when you think about virtual programs, again, think about the time for your program and the duration of your event. I mean, when we were hosting in-person events, most of the time they would be at least an hour long, maybe an hour and a half, because you would bring people together, you would have your guest speaker, you would do your activity together. And I would say most programs would be at least an hour that student organizations have hosted in the past. We don't need to be aiming for an hour-long program on Zoom these days. I think that, everyone always uses the phrase like, students are so zoomed out, and people in general are so zoomed out. And when I think about that, I think about my own children who are doing fully virtual school, much younger than the college age, of course. But as soon as they're done, being engaged all day on screens, they log out of their class and they go on Netflix and they go on YouTube and they play their video games, and they're still glued to their screens. And so I don't know that it's necessarily screen fatigue, but I think that students need to be engaged in a different kind of way. They don't want to sit and be lectured at. They want to figure out like something that is engaging and exciting. So a program might be a quick 15-minute thing, and that's okay. You don't have to strive for a 45 to 60 or 90-minute program in the virtual world. I think shorter might actually be better. Think about live sessions versus pre-recorded. And I'm sorry, I skipped over attendance. Attendance, again, in person, you may have gotten 30 people at one of your programs or closer to 100 people at one of your programs. And it's a lot harder to kind of, talk people into clicking that link and joining in on a virtual program. You might only have 10 people, you might only have 5 people. And that's okay. I don't want anybody to think that their programs or their events are not successful because they're not getting the attendance that they would if this was a normal event. Think about live versus pre-recorded. Sure, there might be some people who are able to come and join the conversation or your event live. But if you're able to record it, or I'm sorry, or even have a pre-recorded program. I'm all over the place right now with my ideas. But if you are doing a live session similar to this session right now, if you record it and your organization has a YouTube channel where you can go and promote that later, or you can stream it live to Facebook or to Instagram, so that people can even go back and watch at another point, you're going to reach more people that way. So don't just stop at your live events that you're doing on Zoom or in the virtual world. Try to record some of them as you go so that they can be available later. A pre-recorded event or partially pre-recorded event is also a great option for a virtual program. So maybe if you're doing a talent show, maybe you have everybody submit their segment, but then it's aired live the day that you want to do it. Or you're collecting little, if you're doing an open mic night, maybe each person can submit their recording in advance, and you're putting together something that is partially pre-recorded, but then also happening live. Think about active versus passive programming. And so I think that our good old friend Bernie here is a great example of passive programming. It's something that went viral. It's something that people had fun with, but you didn't necessarily have to go somewhere at a certain time, certain date to like see the program happen. So obviously, I mean, Bernie was a program on a national scale, maybe even international, but think about what you can do through social media to really increase engagement and connect with students kind of on their own. So for University Weekend, we had the Takeaway Talent Initiative, where we wanted people to go around and take pictures with their takeaway talent. I think Jeff probably still has his right by his desk if you want to hold that up. See, I don't even have him on the screen, but there he is. And so, that's an example of something that's passive. It's something that the students can have fun with. But they don't necessarily have to commit and set aside a specific amount of time on a certain day to participate. Incentives. So if we were to go back in time and rename our program for today, we would call it Programming Without Pizza. So obviously pizza seemed to be the catch last year. The chicken fingers seemed to be the catch last year that would get students to come to a program. The tacos, Taco Tuesday. How many of us are missing Taco Tuesday? And so now that we don't have food as like the biggest incentive ever to get students to a program, what's the catch? What can we do to make students want to come to a program? And so we've seen that a lot of student organizations are using, prizes. So like, okay, come to this event and we're going to draw 2 winners who will receive an Amazon gift card or a Target gift card or, some kind of incentive. There are so many stores that offer virtual gift cards that can just be emailed directly to the recipient. And so that is a great way to engage both the students who are on campus and the students who are off campus, because you don't physically have to be somewhere to come to the Office of Student Development to pick up your prize after the event. It can simply be emailed. And so these are just things to kind of rethink and reconsider, and I know that student organizations are feeling like maybe they failed because they tried something new, they tried something different, they put so much effort into it, and maybe only 8 people came, whereas in person, 58 people would have come. but try to, not let the attendance factor be the determining factor of what is or isn't successful. We want you to take risks. We want you to try new things because, again, we're all trying to figure out the new way of engaging students. And so, if those 5 or 8 students who came to your program were really happy with it, then do it again, and maybe market a little bit differently, or do it at a different day or a different time, or change up something to see if you have better luck in the future. But don't give up just because the attendance isn't there, because it's hard and we're all struggling. But for those students who did click and log in, I'm sure that they really appreciated the effort that you put into making that program happen.
Absolutely. Thank you, Lauren. So we're going to talk about what are some virtual platforms. Where are you hosting virtual programs? Where can you host virtual programs? So Instagram. We love Instagram, what my brother calls Insta. He has no patience for the gram, just Insta. But Instagram has a lot of great features. And so going live, we saw this summer 2020, that the versus battle really took off, where people were going live with at the same time with one another, having conversations, battling their music, figuring out who was the best in their genre or in their songwriting abilities. But Instagram has a live feature that allows for you to engage folks. People can write comments and they can see where you are in your home, in the studio, at a park, wherever. Lauren spoke about passive programs. And so Instagram is a great place to host passive programs. If you're doing a virtual contest, a photo contest, a virtual scavenger hunt, where people would post their pictures or what's going on. So Instagram is a great place to be able to do that and host virtual programming, both passive and active programming. Netflix has a great feature. It's an add-on that's called Netflix Watch Party, and it allows for multiple people with Netflix accounts to watch the same movie at the exact same time. So I know that my friend in California is watching the exact same movie, and we are at the exact same, to the second, part of the movie. And then there's a chat function where people can write in their reactions to what's going on, how the movie is going. I can't believe that happened. This feature might also slow down people like my husband, who likes to ask a lot of questions while we're watching the exact same movie for the first time together. And so that may stop that friend that asks a lot of questions because they have to write it all out in the chat feature. TikTok has taken over. TikTok is a great place. I know a lot of parents across this nation cannot do anything with their children without them kind of doing all these motions while they're with them. And that just shows the contagious energy of TikTok. And TikTok has been a place that also hosts videos and challenges. And a lot of folks are learning dances, creative songs, and then learning those things themselves, recording them and posting them on their own. And so that's a great place to engage folks, again, in a passive way. And that really has a longer lifeline that folks can engage in TikTok. They see a dance, they see an activity, they see a recipe, they see a hack, and then they go on and try it on their own, and then hopefully record that. So that's a great space to do that, virtual platform to do that. Facebook, good old trusted Facebook that's been around for a while, has also a live feature that has really made Facebook more relevant again, where much like Instagram, people can go on and do podcasts and share conversations and invite other people to go live with them. And even when you're hosting programs on other platforms, Facebook is really compatible with a lot of the other virtual platforms, so that you can go ahead and stream what's happening on another platform onto Facebook as well. Zoom, our good old trusted faithful Zoom, is wonderful virtual platform. As a Stockton student, faculty, and staff member, we do have access to Zoom accounts. The student accounts have up to 45 minutes, I believe, and the professional accounts are pro accounts. And so if you need a program that will last longer than 45 minutes, feel free to contact your student development advisor to help you set up a Zoom event or Zoom meeting that will last longer than your student account can. But Zoom is...
I think that the student accounts might have been upgraded.
Did they?
To include
That's given a thumbs
minutes.
up.
Yeah.
And that is what students deserve. So I am so glad to hear that. Disregard. But Zoom is a wonderful platform. It has an opportunity for people from all over to be able to get together. You can protect that space. You can do chat breakout rooms, which really you can organize those by themes or questions or do different games in those spaces. And so Zoom has been our friend really since March 2020, and it's a great space to host the virtual program. And then YouTube functions much like Facebook and Instagram. It's a great place to host programs, to do the pre-recorded programs that Lauren spoke about. I know my sorority hosted a program on YouTube, and it was password protected, and we were able to go in there and enjoy a DJ and do different stroll dances and learn some of the national steps that are associated with our organization. And so
Even
Zoom is a solid
I
platform.
was going to say, even with YouTube, you can do marketing for your organization. So if you're an academic-based club, you can record like a quick commercial and then send that out to faculty members and ask them. Like, our faculty members are exhausted and professors are exhausted, and anyone who is teaching in the virtual world is exhausted. And so if they could get a 5-minute break by playing your commercial, I'm sure they would appreciate that. And then this way you're speaking to your target audience. So if you're a part of the psychology club or the forensic psych club, go ahead and make something and send it out to the criminal justice professors and the psychology professors and even the social work professors and just anyone who might have students that is your target audience for your club. Even if you have a big upcoming event that you want a certain group of students to attend. For us, in the beginning of each semester, I'm almost always asked to come to some of the first year seminar classes and do a quick presentation on involvement opportunities, or asked to come to one of the first EOF meetings and present on involvement opportunities. And I can't physically be there. And so, I mean, if I can join in and come into their class or come into their meeting, I will. But I've also created a quick commercial on involvement and go through my slides and just record it right through Zoom. And I'll send them the link. So this way it's like, okay, if you have 5 minutes in your class, here's a video that you can play to explain to students all the different ways to get involved at Stockton. So you can think about doing that as well. The one other thing I want to mention that was in the chat is that Disney Plus also has a watch party similar to Netflix called Group Watch. And so again, people have to have a Netflix account or a Disney Plus account in order to participate in that, but it's still a great way to connect if your account and your access allows.
Yeah. Awesome.
All right, so this is where we wanted to kind of turn things over to our audience. What is the best virtual entertainment that you participated in since March 2020? And it doesn't have to be a student organization program. It could be something that you did in your community, or a really cool thing that maybe happened on a national level or within your friend circle that somebody put together. And so if you did something cool, or if you want to talk about like one of the best virtual programs, events, something that was very entertaining to you, I encourage you to either put it in the chat, or you can just unmute your mic and share. I know we're a small group today. I can go ahead and get the conversation started. One of my friends who I used to work with when I worked up at Rutgers, she loves making cookies and decorating cookies, and she makes these beautiful things. And so during the quarantine, she ended up putting together like a cookie decorating class, and it was mostly her friends, but we all got together. She sent us the recipe in advance and told us what we would need. And she had her whole Zoom set up. She had her one camera with her phone going, pointing towards her mixing bowl and her area, and something like that was enjoyable to participate in, because it's an activity that like I would normally do by myself, but it was helpful to like get the instruction and connect with other people while I was baking and while I was decorating and learning some new tips. And so for me, that was something that was fun and just something a little bit different than anything I've done before. Are there any other folks who want to share something fun?
So I have one. Hi, everyone. This is Jeff. You all know that I'm into cars and stuff, and this is definitely something I plan on bringing to the car club in case they show up. And there is a high quality video game. They call it a simulation for racing cars. And we were getting together and we were doing it just because we were friends, and it's like a way to train yourself. But one of the things that we did was we added a Discord channel, and we added like a live chat while we were doing the thing that we were doing, and it just really changed the dynamic, and it became much more of a hangout. And I think that, like, if you're getting together and doing you're watching a documentary, or there's a lecture series, or whatever it is, try and add some sort of live dialogue, because that's usually where all the fun happens. And I want to say that if you are like in an academic club, or a club that's, maybe got some business to do, make sure that you start off by saying, like, it's okay to be social. And I think that's one of the things that it kind of really took for Student Senate, because I'm an advisor of Student Senate, is, we had a training recently, and over lunch, just because we didn't want to turn off the cameras, somebody hosted a Jackbox game. And the conversation over the Zoom was basically like, oh, everybody was chatting about this Jackbox game. Well, the afternoon session was so much more lively because people felt more comfortable chatting or interrupting or talking. So it's old adage, icebreakers work. They may be silly, they may not, you may not go into it like thinking this is going to be the best time ever, but that ability to create interaction is really important.
Definitely. Thanks so much for sharing. Any other highlights of the quarantine? Any
in the chat, Jeff, you put the Disney, I think, group watch.
Yes.
Can you expand more about that?
Sure. It's like Netflix's Watch Party, except it's for Disney Plus. So everyone can watch the same show live and chat and talk while the show is going on. But everybody has to have their individual login.
Oh, okay. Sounds good.
I think Ben had his.
I did.
Oh,
sorry. Go ahead, Diane. If there's more questions.
Go ahead, Diane. You share a program?
I'm not sharing a program. However, someone shared a program, one of the students with me, regarding Christmas. Apparently, last Christmas she lost her husband. And then this Christmas she lost her father. However, she said, she had gotten an invitation to, she wasn't sure she wanted to do something for Christmas because, her husband died last year, her father died this year, but she said she thought about it. So, and they had taken photos of putting up trees, celebrating Christmas, when it means losing someone near and dear. And she said she connected with people all over the world. They saw her photo from Weymouth Township, Dorothy, New Jersey, and were amazed about her post. And she said she thought, no, I don't want to do it because, my husband's not here. My father, he's, probably will not be here for Christmas. But she said, I did it. I got engaged. I got involved. And she said the comments that she received from all over the world are priceless. And she said the Christmas, 2020, although it was, the Christmas before she was hurting and everything, had brought warmth to her. It brought love to her. It brought peace to her. And, and I said, well, thank you for sharing that with me. And, she's going to send me, her virtual photo that she sent. But she said everyone had a photo and shared, what their Christmas would look like. And so that was my memory of something that's virtually, and I don't know in terms of entertainment, but just seeing photos, with nature or all over the world with the music. She said it was just the perfect thing for her.
That's great, Diane. Thanks so much for
Awesome.
sharing. Ben, did you have your hand up before too?
Absolutely. I I can say that one of our through the environmental club, the greatest assets was actually me making cooking TikToks and then posting it on our Instagram. And I geared it towards the college student vibe of them not being able to cook very well. So it's like simple recipes and stuff like that. That got a ton of interaction. And another like great virtual program that I was involved with last semester um, with students from a student from Princeton. I worked together to put together a divestment talk, which is like environment, money, stuff like that. And we got speakers from all over the world to speak, professors, doctors, everything, for 8 hours. And there was a lot of people watching. There was like several thousand.
Wow,
And
that's great.
we're like, we're gonna do some New Jersey stuff, vibe in New Jersey, and then we have like speakers from like Indonesia and stuff, and
And I
Senator.
think that's one of the great things about virtual programming is that you can connect with anybody. Like, it makes it so much more accessible to bring a speaker to come and talk to you, or to collaborate with somebody from Princeton or from other schools in New Jersey, because you're only a click away. Whereas before, you really had to coordinate like the travel time and how much it's going to cost to bring that speaker from California or Indonesia to come to Stockton, because in the past it was like, we would never have thought about doing it virtually. And so I think about how much more accessible some of these speakers are. Like, you may have never been able to get somebody that you wanted to, who's big in the environmental world. It might have been so like nearly impossible to get them physically on campus. But now that it's like, all right, like, we just want you to join us for the first half of our meeting. And if you can come in and do a quick guest lecture for the first 20 minutes, and then we'll move on, like, you're going to reach a lot more people that way. And you can, go across time zones and to different countries to get some of those really cool speakers to come.
Definitely agree. Yeah, the ability to expand is like huge.
Yeah. And I also like what you said about like your cooking tips and the TikToks and everything. I feel like the instructional videos have always lived in the virtual world. Like, people use YouTube every day to learn new skills and new things. And so, if you're just teaching somebody a new skill and that's your program, your 3.5-minute video, then that's great. I think about how many things I learned just since March, how to make arepas, how to make my own, tortillas using a tortilla press, like just simple little things that have just been fun to learn. So thank you so much for sharing. Shadi and I kind of put together a list of some of our favorite things that, some from Stockton, some from just nationwide, that we kind of wanted to talk about. And so I know that, we're going to present and give ourselves kudos a little bit, but the Student Involvement Awards last spring, that was something that was a huge risk, because at the beginning of the quarantine, everyone was just canceling programs. They were canceling their big events. They were canceling this. Like, nobody wanted to take that first risk and do a big program virtually, but not us. We did. And so, that was something that was a big risk. Sure, we kind of figured out a few things that we could do better as we went through, but it was exciting. It was one of the first times that we all were able to kind of feel like we were connecting with some of our students through the chat function on the webinar. And it just seemed like, a good home run for one of the first programs that we did. Theater Club has been really active over the course of this quarantine, which, to be honest, kind of was a little bit of a surprise, because they're one of the performing arts groups, and that's, our performing arts groups have really struggled to figure out like how to make this virtual world work. But they have been doing a lot of like film editing and recording on their own and then putting things together. And so their Haunted Walk was actually a live event. It was something that they were able to do in person and able to do safely with social distancing practices in place. But what they did leading up to it was that they created a trailer. So it was a murder mystery type of thing that happened while friends were getting together and hanging out on Zoom, and they recorded it through Zoom. they recorded it on the dark path. Like they set up the trailer and kind of their introductory movie to be like, well, come and find out what happens and come to the haunted walk. Even if it's doing something like that and doing your teaser, some kind of a commercial leading up to your event. I just thought that was such a creative way to do that. Virtual fundraising. So obviously this is something that, we can't do bake sales these days. It's hard to sell things. But we have seen some really creative fundraising come out where students are using Venmo. And currently we can't, link our student organization accounts to Venmo, but if there is an individual who's willing to kind of serve as the point person and then deposit the funds in your account, you can definitely use that as a tool. And so kind of going back to Theater Club, they set up an event in November, right before our world closed down again and went all virtual. But they set up an event where it was Pie and Officer. And so they were set up, I believe, in D-Wing Circle, and they were live streaming it to Instagram. And so they said, like, make sure that you Venmo this person with who you would like pied, and we will do it live for you. And so that was a really creative way that they were able to take something that was always an in-person event, like you would never think to do that virtually, and they were able to make it happen.
I saw a really cool virtual fundraiser on Instagram where an improv group essentially was taking requests through Venmo. So someone could make a Venmo contribution and then put in the comments kind of what their request was for the improv group to improvise and kind of act out. And so they were doing that and raising lots of funds that way, because they were taking the recommendations right from the donors, but live so that everyone else can see and enjoy it. And so that was, it was funny to see them. And then they were able to just kind of market themselves appropriately in that way.
Right. Well, I would say one other good one, not that it was a Stockton fundraiser, but let's go back to our friend Bernie. I mean, somebody crocheted a little Bernie doll and put it up for auction. And I think it raised like close to $20,000 that was donated to Meals on Wheels. So if you have a skill in your organization, if you're the art club, if you're the photography club, maybe you can auction off your work as a way to raise money, or sell, if you have photographs or artwork, make them into greeting cards and sell sets of blank greeting cards. You can definitely utilize the print shop at Stockton to kind of put out those initial expenses, and then anything that you make as revenue could go right into your revenue account. Have to bring it back to Bernie, right?
Yes. That's the theme of the presentation. The Stockton Entertainment team hosted a virtual salsa lessons for the Hispanic Heritage Month celebration on campus. And essentially they got an incredible salsa instructor that I think lived in a completely different state, and on Zoom gave the instructions to how to the moves, first do this, look, and was in a studio and able to show people the dance moves from whatever side they wanted to learn. Set also has a lot of pickup programs where people get the kits of what the supplies are for the program, and then they are able to take them back to their rooms or have them at home, and then on Zoom together, people enjoy the program in the comfort and safety of their own homes. And so that's a paint program. People will pick up the materials for that. There was a pickup charcuterie program where people kind of picked up their own board and they got to do a DIY and do a presentation of that. And so programs where people can pick up the supplies, a pickup hot cocoa bar where you kind of pick up the things that you want, like the little kit, and then you sit down and have like a fireside kind of environment with the mugs and the hot cocoa for that. So those are some of the programs. Esport programs. I probably just all
I was going to say esports is thriving right now. Like this is they are living their dream.
Time.
And I mean, they have been they've always hosted successful virtual programs. But as Jeff kind of mentioned earlier, like they utilize Discord as a way to connect with one another, and that's been really successful for them. Relay for Life, that was similar to the Student Involvement Awards. That was one of the first big programs that was held virtually. And they made that highly interactive and utilized, I think, Jackbox and a few other like polling platforms to really make that nice and engaging. our pre-Kwanzaa celebration in December. That was a great mixture of the pre-recorded sessions and some of the live speakers. And that was, again, like just a good, I guess, hybrid style event, if you will, that just highlighted a lot of performances and, you know, groups that would normally be a part of the celebration but weren't able to be physically there in person together. Classes and tutorials. So again, like learn how to do something, learn how to make something. Those cooking classes. I know the Asian Student Alliance has put together, you know, like sharing their favorite family recipe and having that on their YouTube channel. So just little things where you're learning how to do something. And again, some of those things I've seen at Stockton, and other things are just kind of like on the national level. I remember over the summer there was someplace, I think in maybe Lancaster, that was selling like a cheese making kit, and you could, you know, $25 for the cheese making kit, and once you receive it, you get the Zoom link to go on and get your live instruction. And then like the COVID-19 memorial. So that was something that was done on a national scale. But we were talking about how that was unique because it was really the first time that like everybody was coming together to talk about the same thing and talk about and honor people who have lost their lives to COVID-19. And so just the idea of connecting with people all over our nation on a similar topic, like that's something that doesn't have to be COVID related. You can pick any major topic that is important to you and that people are passionate about across the nation and come together and do something together.
All right.
Yeah, and I definitely don't think that you should be like restricting yourself to just Stockton. Like Stockton, we're programming for Stockton, but don't feel bad about reaching out to other colleges around and working together on something, because like I know I'm dropping Ivy League names very often right now, but like I'm trying to get Stockton on a whole nother level with the environmental movement. So in February, we're working with Harvard, Princeton, Stanford to host Varnishi Paquette, which is like, she's the founder of the Sunrise Movement, like the largest youth-led climate movement in the nation. And I'm gonna be the moderator discussing things with her. So like we're little Stockton in South Jersey. Don't feel bad about that. You know, we're cool, and you can reach out to literally everyone you want. It doesn't matter. They're gonna be like, "Whoa, cool, Atlantic City, what's up?" So, yeah, don't limit yourself.
So first of all, that's awesome. Congratulations.
Yes. Amazing.
But I think that you bring up a great point that, you know, don't be afraid to reach out to other schools. We are not the only school that has a math club that might be struggling with virtual programming. We're not the only school that has a psychology club or a physics club or, any of our clubs. Like that, it's not unique to Stockton. Lots of other schools have an environmental club or several, like we do. And so I love that you're reaching out and collaborating with other schools, because again, it's like, it's hard to engage people in the virtual environment. But if you are pulling resources and energy and effort, and you now have 5 different schools promoting the event, to their members, it's just going to be so much more beneficial to, like there's no need to recreate the wheel. Like let's work together rather than doing separate things.
That's
100% agree.
Cool. So I think this is where we're, going to throw everybody into some different breakout groups. But I think for the purposes of our session today and our crowd, we'll skip on the group activity. But we really hope that you'll feel more comfortable taking those risks and doing new things. And feeling a little bit more confident to take those risks and not feel bad if you only have a few people there, but just to really like think as creatively as you can. I know for me, it's exciting to start with a blank slate and start fresh. But for some people, it can be really scary, but try to brainstorm with your members as much as possible. Think outside the box, think big, because again, like you might be able to get that speaker that you never thought you could get before.
Yeah.
there are lots of silver linings to the virtual world in terms of accessibility, affordability, with speakers that might normally have charged thousands of dollars to come to campus that you can now get at a very reduced cost.
Yes.
So don't be afraid to take risks and try some new things.
Absolutely. I completely agree with Lauren, and thinking about the advantages. And I heard Lauren say like there's a silver lining to the virtual program, and just consider how we've been boxed in by the physical limitations of being in one another's presence, and what the virtual world can offer us to who we can connect with and how far we can go. And so I think that this is allowing for us to rethink what success looks like, rethink what programming looks like, and be able to include people that we have excluded before just by having to have programming in person. So
Cool.
that's virtual programming basics and beyond.
Yep. And any questions or final thoughts or ideas that you wanted to talk about while we're all together? I can go ahead and stop the recording. Thank you for anyone who's watching through YouTube.